Hi.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Mr. Lucio.
Yes. Hi, good evening.
This is Yvonne Brown.
Good evening.
I,
Thank you for
I
joining.
I'm up here at the library because I thought the meeting was supposed to be here tonight.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought when you talked to me, you were talking about last night's meeting. Last night's meeting was up that way. Tonight's meeting is on Zoom. I'm so sorry.
Well, I came last night.
I thought last night's meeting was at Birdie Backus.
It was at Birdie Backus. It was my mistake. It was at Birdie Backus last night. It was at UDC. I'm so sorry, Miss Brown. I was looking for you too. I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to make sure everyone's on mute just as we get started. So I wanted to give, this is a chance for all the residents who live in the vicinity of Mundo Verde, many of whom were involved in the community agreement that we put together between the residents and the school, to follow up and see where things are with that and get an update on the school, given the opening of the school year, see how things are going. I know we've had a couple of traffic issues. I do also have an update from DDOT. So I'm going to start by letting Kristen introduce her team of new people so everybody gets to know who they are. So Kristen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Happy to be here. On my end, we have a whole team with us tonight. I'm Kristen Scotchmore, Executive Director at Mundo Verde. We have Catherine Park, who is our Chief Operating and Sustainability Officer. She oversees a whole slew of operations and facilities and risk management issues across both of our campuses. We have Catherine Rodriguez, who is our operations manager at Cayocho, who's a person on the ground really managing all of the operational needs on the campus. We have John Breyer, who is a consultant to our team. He's worked with us for many years, particularly around construction projects and facilities projects, and he is our project manager for the Varnum Street construction, as well as some of the renovation or capital upgrades that we're doing at the 4401 8th Street.
Catherine, I'm sorry, Kristen, I'm sorry, could you be fair, tell me there was Catherine Park and then there was the second person whose name I didn't get.
Yeah, I can put them in the chat once we get going so you have them, but it's Cat Park. Yep. And Catherine Rodriguez.
Right. And wasn't John with you all before and then left? Yes. And now he's back.
Yes. John has worked with us for many, many years. He helped us get established at our Cook campus and was then on board to help us when we acquired the 8th Street property and is now working with us deeply on managing the development project at Varnum.
Right, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were with the school on Riggs Road in the interim, right? Is that right?
Yes, I do work with DC Bilingual as well.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And then I believe we have someone from Grove Slade, but I'm not sure if I'm seeing. We are expecting a consultant from Grove Slade, the company that did the traffic study, the engineering company. John, do you know if
Yes, Rob is on the phone.
It is Rob. Okay, thank you.
Or he's on the Zoom.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking it was Rob, but I wasn't recognizing his last name. Okay, great. That is who we have on our end.
Great, thank you. Okay, so Kristen, let's start with an update on the current school year and how things are going in terms of number of students, traffic, communications to parents, those types of things. And then we can talk about development.
Okay. We also have, when we get to after talking about development, when we get into traffic, we've got some specific updates on traffic, but I'll give you a more general overview, which is we have about 45 more students than we had last year. We are really sort of, the building is as full as it could be with students, with without the addition. We did add 4th grade, but we shrunk our pre-K program to be able to make sure that all our students could fit. We've communicated to families. So within that, there actually are very few new families. Most of our families we have a few new kindergarten families, but most of our families have been with us because we really didn't have much room to grow this year. So I think that's good news in terms of we shouldn't be retraining most of our families, the ones who have appreciated and followed the guidance that we've provided. We do, in terms of getting ready for the school year, we sent out detailed expectations for arrival and dismissal about a month before school started, and then have continued with reminders around particularly the pain points, which are not parking illegally, not parking on Varnum, on the north side of Varnum, not using the alleys. Those are the kinds of reminders that we are sending out on a regular basis. We have back to school night in a couple of weeks, and I'll make sure that the community knows when that is, since it will mean our activities spill over into a little bit later in the evening, but it's an opportunity for us to get in front of families and make sure we plan on handing out some kind of magnet or sticker that will be required for the car line, as well as ensuring that every parent who comes gets a flyer version of expectations for parking and traffic. I'm trying not to steal Kat's thunder because she has a few slides to share with you a little bit later, but is there anything else in a general way, Emily, that would be helpful?
No, that's very helpful. I have one question, Kristen. For your back to school night, is it all just in the classrooms, or is there a general information session for everyone that you have as well?
It is generally really prioritizing classroom time. However, I can appreciate, and we are just putting the final touches on this. We do have a general session with tables, and it's a really good opportunity for folks to get information about extended day programming, lunch programming. So I think we will have tables all over the building that parents will have to walk by to get information, and I'm thinking that we will make sure that we've got folks actively providing information, solicited or otherwise, to families about traffic.
That's fine. I just was
parking.
curious if there was like a general information session that you were going to speak to the parents for like 5-10 minutes that I could just say hi, but if there's not, then that's fine. But I just was wondering, in case, people wanted to know who the ANC commissioner was, if there was ever any questions or concerns or something. So that's fine.
We do coffees with the principal once a month, and that I don't have the date with me right in my brain right this second, but I'll make sure. I think that could be a really good opportunity for you to come say hi to folks.
Sure. Just let me know when that is.
And then let's talk after the meeting. I think it could make sense for you to be there as people are coming and going, because it might even be, it would just give you a chance to get to know folks.
Yeah, if I can fit it in my schedule, that might be nice. Okay.
I see Steve's point about introducing you all to us, and I'm always game for that, but I'll follow your lead, Emily.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, Steve, I don't mind doing that. Let's just wait a few minutes if you don't mind. I want to just try and get through make sure we get through everything. So Kristen, thank you for the update on the numbers. And so I know we've had, I want to sort of not go in exact order that I had the agenda, but I know we have already had some traffic issues. And I wanted to see what your staff was doing to address those. I know we put out cones. I wanted to also share with you that Kelly from DDOT did reach out to me yesterday. And I believe the signs are just about done. So she could not, she was looking into it and she didn't have a time frame for me. I asked her if she had an idea of when they would be posted, but I would anticipate that it would not be long. So I know that will be helpful. But you know, we went over again where they needed to be posted. So hopefully, as I said, that'll happen soon. But Kristen, I know that you guys have been very responsive when we've brought things to your attention, and I know we've had a couple parents who are just very disrespectful and just ignore everything. So I just wanted to get a sense of what you all are doing currently without the signs there in terms of the alleys and addressing things with parents, things like that.
Yep. Pat, do you want to go ahead and talk about some of what we're doing?
Is there an opportunity? I thought we were going to go through a visual and a slide.
Yeah, we do have some slides. Is it okay, Emily?
Yeah,
if she goes ahead and
absolutely.
shows those slides now. You want to
Absolutely.
jump right into that, so I'm happy if you're
Yeah, that's
ready,
fine.
Kat. Okay.
I will say that one other thing that'd be helpful to know is the total student number and the total number of families, if you've got that too.
Okay. I will while Kat gets the slides teed up, I will get those numbers, those exact numbers for you.
So Emily, while Kristen and her folks are getting their materials ready, would you mind just being transparent about where those signs are going to be posted? Because I don't think everybody who's on this meeting was involved in that signage decision, and I think that would be helpful for context.
Sure, let me do that first, Kat, before you do that. Give me a second here.
I did want to, I know I have it in my email, but I wanted to double check the times because we were noticing something about the current signs and the times.
Okay, I can tell you that too, just a second. Sorry, I have to navigate between multiple screens here. So, all right, let me pull this up. All right, so all right, so the first one, so they're gonna go right here where my cursor is. You see where my cursor is right here? One's gonna go there. One's gonna go there. One's gonna go here. One's gonna go down here. And then there's going to be another one at this alley entrance right here. Is everybody clear on that? Is that helpful?
It is, Emily, but I'm wondering if there's also going to be one at the alley entrance for the alley that parallels Taylor Street in the 800 block. Because we have the same issue in the block between Upshur and Taylor that they have in the block between Upshur and Barnum. There's the alley that runs parallel to 10th Street.
You're talking about this one right here?
Yeah, that one. And on this map, it doesn't look like it goes through, but it actually goes all the way through. So see
Right.
where it says a photo booth? Yeah, it goes all the way through to where your cursor is right now.
Yeah, I know that.
A question on that. So are we blocking traffic? Is DDOT blocking traffic both ways on the alleys? Just
hold
one
on.
way?
Hold
Okay,
on.
sorry.
Hold on 1 second. So hold on. So sorry, my dog's barking back. Can you stop him, please? So I think at the moment we've only got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think let's see how that plays out if it ends because the only way they'd be able to do it is if they entered from there. So so here's the thing. In the answer to the question that was just asked, there's no entry, there's no exit, period. Does that answer your question, Father Vincent?
I think so. So the only thing we're going to run into is a lot of U-turns on Upshur.
So there's no entry, there's no, so this is, I don't want to get into a long discussion about this because this is something we had four.
Right. It's not the scope
Right.
of it.
Yeah, we had 4 meetings about this or more.
Okay.
But and let's leave them with that for right now. If we think we need one more, we'll look into that, but let's monitor that for right now if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I have a choice but to say it's okay, Emily, because it's not what we agreed to when we had the original vote. We specifically talked about both of those alley nails on Taylor and both of those alley nails on Barnum needing signs, and that's what the group voted for.
Okay, then that's my fault. I missed that other part. So
Okay.
I'm happy to go back to Kelly and see if that we can add one more over there.
I would appreciate that. Thank you, because
Yep.
my gut feeling is that what's going to happen is that instead of turning in the alley that crosses Taylor, that crosses Taylor now, what's going to happen is people are going to start turning into that other alley, and that intersection of Taylor and Puerto Rico Avenue is already a circus. So, I think it's better to just put up the sign.
Okay. Okay, I will see what I can do about that.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so, Kat, I think you have screen sharing.
John, can you share your screen, or do you want me to share the presentation?
I'm happy to share, but I think I also need screen sharing.
I did, I just gave it to you.
Thank you.
I think the presentation, we're gonna divide the presentation. Conquer and divide.
So Kat, let's start with current, and because I think that's what Emily was most specifically interested in right now, and then we can follow Emily's lead about whether we go to development next and then future traffic.
Well, hold on 1 second though. Hold on. I think we're getting ahead of where we wanted to be. You're jumping ahead to the development.
No, I'm saying current traffic patterns. We've
Yeah,
just
I just
got a
wanted
couple
to
of
pull up a visual to talk about sort of like where the stations are.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
so that
That's
everyone could, can you go back, John, to one?
And Emily,
Thank-
what I'm saying is let's pause on anything future. Let's just
Yeah.
talk current right now.
right. That just talked current. And Kristen, did you happen to pull up those numbers?
Yes, we have 500 students and 300 families, and I'm getting the exact number from last year, so you have that as well.
500 students and 300 families this year?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
So I just wanted to pull up this slide as a visual for the group. I won't go into the specifics. I think everyone is pretty familiar with the daily routine of the traffic flow coming down Varnum along the red line, and then there is a car line that loops around the campus and then goes back into Varnum. What I did want to share is the committed stations from the school. So hopefully all the neighbors have seen the start of the school year. We've had at least one, if not two people in the alley right before 10th Street. If you go down the red line to the first yellow dot, there's usually one of our staff members dressed in a yellow jersey directing traffic between car line and the major flow on Varnum. There's another person, another station at the alley right before, I don't know what that street is called, but the one that is the dead end. The dead end. Upshur, is that Upshur? And then there's at the intersection of Upshur and Varnum is a crossing guard. And we encourage families to park their car and walk the children, especially our pre-K families, to the school. But I think the major traffic flow is that intersection between Carline and Varnum. I've personally stayed at this intersection, the alley right before 10th Street. And I think, I appreciate the update about signage, because without signage to reinforce our messaging to our parents and neighbors, which is please don't use the alleys, every day our staff members are reporting at least 5 or 6 cars that are aggressive and will just move around our bodies or threaten our bodies to go down the alley. We are successful in, I think, redirecting at least 3 cars that try to go down the alley, but we've had some pretty keep using the word aggressive, aggressive interactions with people rolling down their windows saying, you can't enforce this, this is public. Where's the signage? There is a sign, I think, that says between 4 to 6:30, you can't go down the alley, but that of course doesn't actually support arrivals or dismissal time. Arrivals are between 8:10 to 8:30. So starting from 8 to 8:40, it gets pretty heavy. And then dismissals around 3:30. So those are the 4 committed stations. And I think until we get signage, we can reinforce these stations. Having experienced this myself, I think it's important for someone to be there to have eyes, but I don't know if we as a school can reinforce that someone needs to be stepping in the middle of the alley using our bodies to block traffic.
Yeah, and if I can just comment on that real quick. The signs are going to be different than the ones you've now, right? So they're going to have morning and afternoon times on there. So hopefully that will help. They're going to have from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Oh, that's
great. That's really great. Yeah, when Kat reminded me that the current sign said 4, I was a little worried that we just didn't have the right time. So that's great. 3 o'clock is great.
I also wanted to say, as someone who's been there 3 times this week, the first week and a half of school, I've tried to just to get a sense of who's using the alley. I've asked people to roll down their windows and just remind our parents, and it's not just parents. So I would say, like, out of the 5 who engage with me, there are a few that say, I live in the area, I'm a neighbor, I'm not a parent. So it's not just parents.
Meaning they live on the alley?
No, I think they're neighbors. There are people, I think, who just use that alley as a thoroughfare.
Yeah, the only people who are, and they're not even supposed to do this, but the only people who technically can use that alley during those times are the people who live there to exit. If they are neighbors in the area, it doesn't matter, they can't use that alley.
Someone also reported that a driver was coming from the opposite direction, and when they asked if they were a parent, they said that they weren't.
Yeah.
So I guess my only small observation is it's not just our parents, and that signage would help so that we could at least point to the rule, and if need be, we could maybe reinforce through ticketing or something. But right now, what just feels a little hollow is that we don't have anything official to point to.
Yeah, so in that regard, Kristen, we're going to need your help. I'm going to need you to reach out to the school patrol officer people, and once those signs get put up, requesting that they be there the first couple days to help enforce that.
Yeah. I'm happy to do that. I did reach out to the deputy mayor for education because that office has offered to help when we're having trouble with city agencies. So it sounded like Kelly was moving quickly, so that's great, but I think we want to get that extra support. I agree, Emily.
Yeah.
And if we can catch it early, that'll be really good.
What else do I want to point out?
If I could just interrupt for a moment, Emily, I know you've reached out to the Jesuit Academy before, but their drivers are also, during drop-off time or pickup time, they also need to be reminded that the alley is not, a public street.
Okay. I can reach out to them.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think, John, do you want to go to the next slide? So are there any other questions about arrivals? I just really wanted to point out the 4 stations, some of the observations, our commitment to trying to make, the experience as safe and calm as possible for everyone, not just our parents, but also for the neighbors. I guess here's some pictures along what Carline is like. the middle
s-
picture.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
On the previous diagram, it might help if you put numbers,
For the
reference
stations?
numbers on the diagram so we know where exactly you're talking about. And I
Sure.
want to compliment you on your people that you have out on Varnum Street at the 901 alley, which you didn't mention you have somebody there. So you actually have two people on Varnum Street out there. And thank you for that. So there's the normal traffic director who's helping move traffic across Varnum Street from your car circle route. And then there's another person standing at the alley at 901 to sort of tell people don't go this way. And I appreciate that very much. And you didn't show that on the diagram. And so that.
That's a good suggestion. And I
So
think,
they're already there.
yes. And I hope you, Steve, and I know you live close to the school, like I hope you see us every day.
I do. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. I appreciate you having even an extra person out there.
Yes.
And they're there and they're wearing their little traffic vest and they're in danger actually, but
Yeah.
we're glad they're there.
Rain or shine. Okay. So these are pictures, just sort of boots on the ground images. Do you want to go to the next slide to talk about dismissals? So again, here's the visual. It's more or less this exact same flow. I think what's different about dismissals is that you're not talking about as many cars. Yes, both pre-K and all the grades dismiss at the same time, but what we have every day from 3:30 to 6 is aftercare. And I don't have the exact number, but I think close to like 50% of our families take advantage of our aftercare program. So there's, I mean, this is an estimate, but half the number of families involved in this flow at dismissal, and then there's more of a staggered pickup between 3:30 and 6. And so we haven't staffed the same number of positions for the afternoon, only because we didn't think that there was quite the need to have as many eyes. But I'm also here to hear and listen to see if that is truly the case. But the afternoon just seems to be a little bit calmer because the actual demand has been reduced.
May I say something about that? In
Yeah.
the morning, you have arrivals for at least 30 minutes. People come over a 30-minute period.
Yes.
For dismissal, it's 3:30, 3:30, 3:30, or whatever moment it is. It's a moment that, so the peakedness of that traffic situation is much higher than the morning thing. And in the afternoon, unlike the morning where you have a drop-off procedure with staff, you have no pickup procedure with staff outside. Each car must park and walk, retrieve, walk back, leave. So in fact, the congestion to leave the area going east down Barnum Street, you'll notice traffic backs up much more in the evening than they do in the morning. The traffic is backed up all the way from 12th Street, sometimes standstill all the way up to 8th Street. So you do have a lot of traffic. You do have a problem there, even with half the number of cars, for the two reasons I cited.
Okay.
Can I say something about the Matt Ted Keating from Marist College? You'll notice I'm talking about the spot, the one that goes from.
Hey,
over
let me just interject real quick. I do want us to get in the habit of everyone raising their hands, and I'll call on people because that's pretty easy to do, but that's fine. But Ted, go ahead. Ted, go ahead and ask your question.
I'll be glad to do that.
Go ahead and ask your question, Ted.
Okay. When you go up Varnum, across 8th Street, you have a red line going over the parking lot that belongs to the school. Now, just to know that entrance and exit you see there is the only entrance and exit from Marist College. So what happens there can either block. I find, I guess I must be going in two directions because maybe I had no trouble getting out the other morning, but I was stopped at the corner there where you have the yellow dot. And I think that person could know somewhat that it's a neighbor trying to get out of their front exit to let them go through the corner. He was permitting cars to turn onto 8th Street and they were tremendously backed up, but If some kind of accommodation can mean, could be there for our only exit right there. Now, I think probably it hits more when it gets to the corner. There could be an understanding that if you hold up us up until you get all of the Varnum cars turned onto 8th Street, it's in effect blocking our entrance and exit. If it was an emergency, it could be a real problem, but just to say that the awareness that you're dealing with the only entrance and exit from Marist College property.
Okay, thank you, Ted. What I want to do is I want to let them continue to go on, and if you're okay waiting, let's let them continue to show their slides because I don't want us to hold them up too much. So, Kat, go ahead.
That was really it. Just an update on arrivals and dismissals, and wanting to carve out some time to hear from the community. You know, school's been in session for not nearly 2 weeks, but I wanted to point out stations. I'm hearing that maybe we need more eyes on dismissal and rethinking some dismissal flow. But I don't really have any other slides to share.
Are you still doing a kiss and ride?
No, not this year. That doesn't mean that it's not but that's
No.
off the table.
In the morning, we're doing it, but not in the afternoon, right?
Oh,
the
you
car
mean-
line. Yeah.
Is that what? Sorry, I didn't know. I guess I should. What exactly do you mean by kiss and ride?
I'm thinking that's the car line.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
in the
I
morning
thought you
we're
meant
doing it, but in the
buses. I'm
afternoon,
sorry.
Yeah.
No, like you do at the metro, like the kiss and ride at the metro.
It's a kiss and ride at your school. Open the door, kid hops out.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm taking away, and it's just, we just need to think about, Kat, what we might do is, do we facilitate an introduction between Ted, your folks, and the crossing guard, so she knows who you are, and then some kind of process for if it were an emergency and you needed to move quickly versus sort of a standard morning. So I think there might be a couple of ways to handle that, and we don't have to talk about it now, but I'm noting that as things that we might follow up with.
Okay. Anne, you had a question. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the first thing I want to say to the folks who are here from Mundo Verde, Kristen, Cav, and Catherine, thank you for being here. I know you did not get into education to talk about traffic management. So definitely appreciate all of the things that you are doing at the beginning of this school year. The question that I have is that I noticed that we are spending a lot of time talking about how to manage the cars and the traffic that are up there. Have we considered any other options to reduce the number of vehicles that are up there in the first place? I know that when Mundo Verde originally petitioned ANC3A, part of what was in your petition for the Calle Ocho site was something like 40% of your students were going to come by bus. Then the pandemic happened. I realized that's a thing. We are now coming out of that. Has that been reconsidered? Has there been any other consideration for any other sort of centralized drop-off that's not in the already congested dead end at 8th and Varnum to create like a foot pool with older students? So parents come and drop their kids off all in one place, and then folks from the school walk them up Varnum Street to school, for example. So I'm just wondering what alternatives we're considering to even just reduce the amount of traffic that's up there.
Well, we have talked about buses. I'm silent only because I don't know if this is leading us to sort of the future slides or if, can I just get some direction? Should we jump into the future?
You want to just talk about what we've talked about, and yes, for us, these are things we're considering actively but haven't implemented yet.
Yeah, so some ideas that we've talked about include organizing a carpooling with the parent groups, buses, and but that, I think we just needed to figure out like cost of bus, what type of bus. Last year we had a bit of a bus scandal, so just wanting to make sure we chose the right vendor, and also thinking about like, when do we launch this type of program? Is this the right year versus next year?
Have you guys thought about doing a bike bus?
A bike?
Well, I'm so glad you said that, Emily, because we actually have active. So what Kat's talking about are the studies and the way that we can
Yep.
we continue to think about what we might do in the future. We do have a very active bike
Yep.
parent committee, and if you've been on 10th Street on Fridays, you will see them on
Yep.
their bikes, and they're really active about how to continue to expand that as a way to access the school. So we don't right now know the numbers, but we do have a large number of bikers, and then they are working to promote more biking. And
So my son's school once a month does a bike bus
Mhm.
where all the parents meet at a designated spot, and then they all bike as a group to school.
And
Maybe
it's much safer because they're in a group. Yeah.
right.
So
Right.
that's
So,
part of,
Kristen,
that's part of,
it sounds like you're familiar with that concept. So, I mean, I wonder whether that's something that would help encourage other families who aren't currently biking to say, hey, let's join the bike bus, this month and see how it goes or whatever. I don't know.
I think it's happening weekly. It may not have started yet with the school year, but at the end of last year, it was happening every Friday, and we had at least 50 participants, which felt pretty significant. But
if I could jump in, it has
Yeah.
started.
oh, thank you. I'm so
We're
glad you're
doing
speaking up,
weekly
Catherine.
bike
Go.
buses. If any of the neighbors would like to take a look, tomorrow we're expecting a bike bus. Next week we're also expecting a bike bus for memorial for one of our students, Allison Hart. Will be next Friday's bike bus. And my understanding is that it's every Friday, and they're showing up about like 8:20 for the cutoff time at 8:30.
You know where they're starting from?
I believe it's at Turkey Thicket, but I can confirm and get back to you guys and give you that information.
Yeah, and that is part of the reason why I brought up alternative modes of transportation, because the parents who were involved in that bike bus are advertising on the Brookland list for participants. So, you know, they're already self-organizing, and a lot of times what we see in the 900 block of Upshur Street is they actually make the left onto Upshur and use the alley to go up the street because it's less dangerous, because in theory there are fewer cars.
You know, and Steve asked, why isn't it more than just Fridays? And I think that's a good question. You know, I think that as it, becomes more popular, maybe it is something you guys can continue to encourage. I think that's what our school is doing too. I wonder, Kristen, whether it makes sense to look at potentially starting one from another direction as well. And frankly, I would maybe suggest reaching out to my friend who's a parent who lives on that side of town, and bikes a lot, because I'm sure she might be willing to help organize that.
That sounds great. Thank you, Emily, for that suggestion.
Yeah. You know who that is, right?
It's who you sent the email to, yeah?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I think our parent association goes fairly quiet over the summer, but they'll be meeting soon, and we have every intention to really work with them to continue these ideas and to explore what other ideas they have, whether it's actually getting parent support at the alleys, because the parent to parent message can sometimes be much more powerful than a staff to parent message, and to expand the bike bus and explore other options.
Okay. Well, why don't we move forward with the rest of your presentation? And then are you guys, yeah, Steve, we're going to get to that in a minute. So we're going to address that before the meeting's over.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you all continue to finish your, oh, are you done sharing your slides?
So do you want to go to a development update
Yeah,
and
let's do
then
that.
a future state traffic
Let's do that.
analysis? Okay.
Yep.
So we'll go in that direction. John will handle the development update.
Yeah. So as I think everybody knows, we have two things in motion right now. The first one is to upgrade the systems in the existing 4401 8th Street building. And we are planning to do that work this summer. And so again, that's not going to have any impact to the exterior. We're not building anything new. We are just replacing the HVAC system, which is much overdue for a replacement, adding a kitchen area so we can prep better food on site, and some other mechanical and electrical replacements are as required.
John, can I ask a question in regard to that real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to request that as that gets closer, is that you share some more about that with the community, and we talk about the trucks coming in and out, and please make sure that the trucks are well aware of the time restraints that they can be there doing any construction work, because we've had problems with that in the past.
Yeah, we will definitely manage that closely. We will stay in compliance with our permits, and yeah, we'll make sure they're on top of it. When we chose the builder for this, that was one of our interview questions was, how are they going to manage that traffic coming into a residential area so we would not disturb the neighbors. And we're confident that they'll be able to do that. They're actually going to write it into contracts with their subcontractors.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. The other project, which I think people are familiar with, is across the street at 817 Varnum Street. We are currently in design with that, in the early stages of, schematic design. I'm just going to pause because I saw two hands go up. I don't know, Emily, if you want me to continue going and take questions at the end, or.
Yeah, just why don't you do that, and then we'll take questions when you're done.
Okay. So that is going across the street to 817. That is the project for the new building. Our plan is to raise the existing building, which is about 30,000 square feet, and build up a building that's about 15,000 square feet in a rectangular form. We don't have renditions or drawings today, but we're more than happy to come back and share those as they get developed as we finish up the schematic design process.
Can I ask you a quick question? I know we're shown some pictures before of the potential, and that will include a playground over there?
We will have play spaces. There's two things impacting that. One is we traditionally use more natural play spaces and elements rather than what you might see as a playground that's down on the corner of 12th and Varnum. But the goal is, one of the great things about the area, was that we have this land which can really be something that our kids can explore. And so as we've been working with the landscapers in design, we've been talking about different play spaces around the building, garden areas, maybe a small orchard. So really making it feel like a pretty natural space. And we want the building to blend in and not be an overwhelming presence in the neighborhood. And so we've been working closely with the architect to look at what those designs would look like, and then also how it relates to the building, the 4401 8th Street building. So it really feels like it's intentional and connected and fits with the surrounding area.
Okay, I appreciate that. I do want to mention that I think it is critically important, and I even heard this last night, it is critically important that we take some of the stress off of the two neighborhood playgrounds that you all currently use. Last year, we had a really good conversation with Principal Jen, and she had a chart, right, where it was really well laid out about which groups would go to the Michigan Park playground when and for how long, and which groups would go to the Turkey Thicket playground and when and for how long. And we've already had a few complaints about the number of kids at playgrounds and this year, and the, you know, some other issues related to them getting there. And so I think it is critically important that there be some sort of way to take to reduce the number of kids that are using the public playgrounds.
Sure. I mean, you know, again, one of the really appealing parts of this property was the amount of outdoor space there was that we could use for play and for our kids to you know, go right out of the classrooms, right out of the building, and be in a space where they could run around.
Right, I understand that. What I'm not clear on is that there is a big difference, right, between an outdoor space to explore, like where you would do garden experiments, science I'm stuff like that, and a playground where it's just free run around playground time, right? And so I'm not clear on whether or not this would be supplemental to that, right? And as Steve just put in the chat, reducing the use of the public playgrounds, because I think that was the understanding from the community with the development of this new school is that there would be a reduction in the use of the other public playgrounds in the area because with this new development.
Yeah, I mean, in a second I'll pass it back to school. I think I might have misspoke a little bit when I talk about natural play spaces. It's not that we're not going to have play structures. It's just not going to look like a traditional playground. So if anyone's familiar with our 30 P Street playground, we have a large globe structure where probably 35 students can climb through cargo nets and all around it. And so it's a great climbing activity. It's just not your traditional metal kaboom style playground. There's also swings that blend into the environment, as well as slides and logs and balance stumps that can sort of be a parkour course that students love to run around on and play. So I hear it, and I guess I will pause for a second and see if anyone, Kristen or anyone on your team, wants to speak specifically about the operational use of those playgrounds.
I'll speak briefly, which is I believe this will reduce our use of public playgrounds. I will not say that it will eliminate our use of public playgrounds. We definitely like to create opportunities for our students to explore multiple types of activities. And because we're not building a traditional playground, we will likely still have kids participating in play at public playgrounds. But absolutely, I anticipate it cutting dramatically our use of public playgrounds on a daily basis.
Okay, and that's good to know. I mean, I have no problem with them walking to the other two playgrounds. That's not a problem. I mean, my son does it with his school. I know lots of schools do it, and I did it as a kid, so I'm not worried about that. But I do want to make sure that we come up with a plan to reduce sort of the stress on those other two playgrounds.
And I'm hearing you, Emily, in terms of the need for transparency, and I will work. We now have two principals on our campus, and I will make sure that we provide access to with a little more transparency of how we're using the current playgrounds. I will do a little bit of a plug to just say, from a policy perspective, many schools no longer have playgrounds on site because most of the spaces have been converted to DPR sites. That doesn't mean that schools don't need access to DPR sites and that schools need to continue to use them.
So are you going to provide us like a plan like we did before where you show us the time blocks? That would be very helpful.
I think we just need to needed to get through the first couple of weeks to try things out and make sure they were working, but I'll make sure that you get access to a schedule that gives you a sense of when we're using which playgrounds.
Okay. Well, before I start taking questions, John, did you have any other important points you wanted to mention? I apologize for derailing things, but do you have any other main things you wanted to mention in your? So I guess real quick before we go to questions, where are we in terms of the timeline? You said you're in the design stage. What's the timeline?
So the goal is to deliver the building, so ready for students, August of 2025. So we're going to be working on design for the next 6 months, concurrently, we will start putting in permits, and then we would start construction spring, summer of 24, again, with a delivery in 25.
Okay, and you will bring those plans to the community to review?
We will, yes, we can bring renditions of the site, and as they develop, we can share out presentation of what people can expect. We will also, in those meetings, I can share updated timelines and construction schedules as they get refined based on the design.
Yeah, you're going to need to do that with the single member district and also the ANC. So Kristen, we should be in touch about which meetings you want to come to. And we will do that. Obviously, we want to present it to the single member district first. But then I don't want to not include the ANC, full ANC. So, okay.
I think a couple of the slides you have at least show the footprint, right, John?
Yeah, I mean, we can, I can go to that, Emily, or I think that.
I thought there were a couple hands up. Ted, you want to ask your question? Go ahead. Ted, you're on mute.
Just to say, Kristen, we talked about this before, but it's critically important. You saw that our entrances and exits for that building are almost facing each other, just a few feet off. And that block of road going in front of our exit is the only way out. And I think you said earlier that you were rethinking whether the building is going to open out and the driveway is going to open out on that side or some other side. I don't know where you're going with that, but you said you would keep us directly in dialogue over that. It's more than just like a general concern. It's our being able to save our entrance and exit. So, but I don't know where you are presently, if you can even comment on that, whether you would be using a parking lot on the same site as our property or not.
I think we do have a slide that will give you a little bit of information, and then what I know that I committed to was meeting with you all individually so you could explore the impact on your specific property and operations. We had to go backwards before going forwards for a variety of reasons, and I think we're finally at a place where we can be ready to meet with neighbors in an individual sense. So in what I understand is that's Stewart Center, that's you, Ted Mariston, that's you, Chris, because you're right on the upshire, your unique property backs up onto us. But those are and then I think for sure, Father Vincent, because you're right across the street, we should meet with you as well. So those are things that we need to schedule in the coming months and we are actually finally ready for those conversations in a way that we haven't been for the last 6 months. So I appreciate your patience with that, and the intention is absolutely still there.
Just the assurance that you are going to do it, because that same little piece of roadway there, we simply can't have large trucks coming in anywhere during your entrance or your arrival, or because I hope they don't go in there, it's just going to get trapped in there otherwise. But that's another example of it. But I'm more concerned about the fact that we can use the exit freely. So,
Kristen, I appreciate that. I think there's several neighbors on this call who that would be very helpful to meet with them, the ones who are going to abut that project where there's going to be fencing issues and tree issues and all that stuff. So if you can make sure to do that, that would be great. Anne, you had a question.
Not really a question, just so much to point out that while it seems improbable, my spouse and I do actually share a property line with this project. So we definitely want to make sure that we get on that list of proximate neighbors meetings. I know it seems weird, but we actually do. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Anne. I think I called you Chris, but I absolutely had you in mind when I was thinking that you were a neighbor in terms of our meeting with you. Can I get clarification? Is Divine Word another neighbor, or is that
They're immediately
Father
across the
Vincent?
street.
Is that
So we're across from the Stewart Center, Divine Word's down across from
Okay.
the building you're gonna
So
demo.
I might need a point of contact there because I think I have all of you, but I don't know if I have Divine Word.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on the development? Okay. Great. Can we?
So have you decided to remodel rather than tear down and rebuild?
No.
Yeah.
They said they're going to raise the building.
Oh,
They
Okay.
said they said they're going to raise, and then they're going to have the new building is going to be much larger.
Smaller.
No, much
Sorry,
smaller.
smaller.
Much
15,000.
smaller.
15,000 square feet. Sorry.
Yeah. We
And
went
they just-
round and round on renovating, and it's really, really hard. So that's
Yep.
not happening.
Okay. So yeah, the demolition schedule will be important as well. Okay. So can we, I guess one of the things I want to ask is before we move off the construction pieces is that, and I know that the slide said Grove Slade. What feedback have you gotten from Grove Slade on their traffic study? And can you share their traffic study with us?
Yes, we can, and we have them on the phone, and I'm gonna let Rob speak in a little bit, or in a minute, right after I talk. Big picture, the feedback we've gotten, they've been out to do observation. They have, done significant work in the area in general, and then also twice on this property, once back in 2018 when we moved in, and then they've been engaged with us over the last year. They have done traffic observations, as was mentioned earlier by Kat. They have also gone out into neighborhood, and we commissioned actually a parking study. So they pulled data at different points in the day to determine how many spaces at any given time were still free in the neighborhood to park. And they've been consulting with us in our design process on the best ways to make the property interact operationally with the school logistics. So that's arrival, dismissal, deliveries, food service, trash pickup, all of the things that we need to operate, and how do we make that most effective and least impactful to both the school as well as the neighborhood. And so with that, Rob, I will pause, and maybe you can just talk a little bit about your process and the work you've done and your thoughts on this.
Yeah, hello. I'll introduce myself, Rob Sheasel from Grove Slade. John kind of covered what we've been doing, observations, looking at the plans, and kind of helping think through the process. I would say that, no school doesn't have issues at arrival and dismissal, and it's all about finding a balance between how much infrastructure and resources you devote to something that happens, not too much of the day, and still have a nice neighborhood and school infrastructure. So that's what we've been thinking through. So we did observations, we've given some thoughts and some ideas on what to do. We've especially been focusing on the future with the new site across the street. There's an existing loop, some resources that we could use possibly to assist and improve arrival dismissal operations. We've helped think through some changes to the driveway width and the geometry of that loop, so it can better be used. So two cars, could go side by side around it, pull some of that activity off the street and provide another resource. And I would actually say the main thing we've been doing in addition to that is looking at safety improvements, especially knowing that there'll be a flow of staff and teachers and students across between the buildings, and looking at the sidewalks, the curb ramps, and the crosswalks at the intersection. And there's been a set of recommendations and improvements that are getting adapted into the plan that we've been working on with the team and in conjunction with DDOT. So if there's other questions, I could kind of go into it, but between what John said and hopefully that little bit of detail, you kind of get an idea what we've been up to.
So I appreciate that. I have a couple of questions. First of all, we've been promised a copy of the traffic study for quite a while now, and so if that's possible, we'd like to get that as soon as possible. We'd like to see a copy of that. You can email it to me and I can share it. Secondly, I think it's important for you all to know, not only in terms of the traffic, but also in terms of the construction. There are 3 other huge construction projects going to happen all overlapping, right? So we've got the Kennedy School, which is just on Buchanan Street. And the school is going to break ground, I believe, at the beginning of next year. They were delayed. They were supposed to have started this year, and they got delayed because of construction cost issues. So they are planning to start, I believe, January 2024. When that building is done 18 months later, then they're going to demolish the school and build 80 townhomes. In addition to that, so that's 2 construction projects. In addition to that, as you all are well aware, the Providence Hospital site is going through a process, and they are potentially going to be redeveloping that within the next 1 to 2 years. So I think that we need to be very mindful of the fact that all of these things are happening roughly at the same time. I know that in the past I have pulled together a group from all these projects to talk about that. And so now that we have some plans from Mundo Verde, and we are getting closer to development plans from Providence, and we have finalized plans from the Kennedy School and 801 Buchanan, I think I will probably look to call another one of those meetings, because I think that those groups need to be connected and involved and know what all is going on between those groups. Because I think all of that is going to significantly impact the neighborhood. So I think you all just need to be very vigilant about that and know that, and be also aware of how that might change some of these plans in terms of the traffic flow. You know, DDOT is going to be heavily involved with this in their traffic plan. So I think that all of that is critically important. I don't know if you all at Grove Slade have considered that, but I think it's important to know.
We are focused a lot on the design of the building, the operations of when the addition is done, and those type of things. Construction issues, and how things overlap. It's something, if we get involved, it's when we talk with the construction companies, look at their truck routes, and try to come up with ideas for what they can do. But a lot of that is the type of conversations that come about with you know, those companies and their truck haul routes and suppliers and groups like what you're saying with. So we're usually not directly associated with that unless we're actually looking at, you know, trying to figure out if what truck routes work and what doesn't work physically for vehicles, what might work with congestion, and how to help separate those. But we need a lot of input from the time and the type of trucks and vehicles that those companies use first.
Right.
So that's usually
And
not
I
something
appreciate
that
that.
we
I'm
get
not just talking about the construction. I'm not just talking about the construction. I'm also talking about how the roadways are going to change.
Huh.
I'm talking about how the parking is going to change. All of those things are going to change with these developments.
Yes. But every single one of those changes will go through a review and work things out with DDOT. As far as the school is concerned, those are mostly focused around what is going to go on across the street at the new campus. That's why I said it's mostly focused on those safety improvements. Each project that you listed, I don't know all of them exactly, they will have their own concerns that they'll address and work through with DDOT to think about the issues that are focused on each one. And then DDOT kind of thinks about the neighborhood as a whole and how those kind of totality work, and making sure that each kind of project works through what they're saying. So
yeah, well, I'm gonna disagree with you a bit on that, because they've known for a long time that the Providence project was going to happen, and they did not coordinate their traffic, the street grid with the 801 Buchanan Street and Kennedy School and that project. So you know, I want to just be, I'm glad to hear that you'll be reevaluating it, but you know, I want to make sure that, you know, as you move forward, you're considering that. But I think the thing for me to do is to pull together, Kristen, that group that we pulled together before with you all, and I'm happy to have Grove Slade there as well. And the developer, the Concordia group from the Kennedy School Development, and EYA from the Providence School Development, because I think we all need to make sure that everyone's aware of those, and then also include the Jesuit school that's right there as well, since they're sort of smack dab in the middle of it. So I just want to, I appreciate that, Robert, and I think, you know, we just want to be I just want to make sure you were aware and just sort of be in the vigilant. But John, I saw you shaking your head. If we can get a copy of that traffic study, that would be great.
We'll have Kristen email it to you, Emily.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Ted, you have a question, and Steve, I see your comment, and we're not going to exclude them. Of course, we're going to include them. Ted, you're on mute.
You're
Ted,
still on mute,
you're
Ted.
still on mute, Ted. There you go.
There you go. Just to say, it's backing up Emily in a way, but I had the experience a couple of mornings ago. We've had a foreign student here for most of the summer. Had to get him over to a language school downtown for 9 o'clock in the morning. I would dash over and drop him on the red line. I couldn't get onto 12th Street from Allison. I couldn't get on Taylor Street. Cars were pouring out of Uriel, out of alleys over there, and that the whole neighborhood was locked up. And even when I tried to come back from the station, I couldn't get back on 12th Street for lower money. I thought, well, I know 13th Street, that was backed up. And it is not going to be enough to look at Barnum Street. And when we talk about the new school with 200 more students next year, we barely can handle the traffic we have, but I don't think an answer is going to come on Varnum Street. It's going to be a bigger picture than that. And as Emily says too, Brooklyn, well, I would say Brooklyn was not invented for this. There's barely two cars passing each other's streets. It's an old sort of community of people that have lived here for ages, and we're trying to turn it into a major neighborhood with big thoroughfares. They're not here. When you get beyond 12th Street and Taylor, I'm just giving you those issues to say that adding these 200 students next year, it is not yet shown that it can be handled at all. And finding a way to do it easily is not going to be the explanation, because I have some questions I could ask them another time, but whatever happened to the traffic study group? And they were the ones who were supposed to be doing these studies. And, you know, I like these plans that people have, but I thought we had a traffic committee made up from neighbors that could talk about these issues. And obviously the extension of the school is not going to go away. It's coming back at the in another year. But just to put all that before you, that, you know, we need to look at it ourselves as neighbors, like we decided to do, and look at it in the big picture with Emily saying about Providence, about the new development up at Kennedy. And I don't know where Brooklyn is going with it, but the developers are virtually taking it over. But that's the question. That's going to be a traffic problem. And we do not get help from DDOT. At the most they tell, we can just handle an intersection or maybe a block. We can't handle the whole neighborhood. They actually told us that at one point. So.
Thank you, Ted. I appreciate that. Okay. Okay. Anything else on the traffic study? Knowing that you all will share with us a copy of it, and I'll distribute it to everybody.
But will we have a traffic committee meeting? The one we said we were going to have last fall.
We don't have a traffic committee. You're talking about the MOU group?
Well, no, that was a very nice little document we did, and it showed great cooperation in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that was the MOU group.
Nothing for understanding the traffic problems we're going to run into.
Yeah, let's get the copy first, Ted, and then we'll get back to it. Okay.
Oh, does the rest of the committee have anything they want to say here? I thought we were going to be doing this, unless
we don't have the committee here, Ted. We don't have a committee.
We have many members on it. You have Steve, you got others, but keep that in mind that I think the committee was supposed to do it, and I think we should do it together.
You're talking about the MOU group, right? That was the group that did that.
Well, there was a very good document, but I was concerned at the time we were getting bogged down in it.
Right, but that's not this group, Ted. That's different.
Was that the traffic study group or not?
Ted, let's talk about this online, because I think there's some confusion. So let's if you want to call me tomorrow, let's talk about it.
But I need to have understanding from others as to what we agreed on. I think.
Well, we haven't gotten to the MOU part yet. We're not done. So we haven't gotten to that part yet in the meeting tonight.
Okay. Oh, you can get there. That's good. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. But this isn't the MOU group, just so you know.
I don't even know what the MOU group, I think it began being the traffic study group.
No, it was always an MO. It was all, yeah, okay.
Not my,
We can talk about that later.
not my recollection. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, so let's move forward and talk about the MOU now that that's been raised, since I think we're in a relatively good part of this traffic study. Kristen, you have your hand raised, sorry.
I was just gonna say my team was prepared to be here until 8 and we're now at about 8:15, so I may unless there are more questions for folks.
I'm sorry, because we usually go.
Oh no, that's okay.
We usually go till 8:30 or 9, so
Okay.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I mean, I wanted just to
I'm happy to talk about the MOU. Are there any other questions about, I think John has a couple of slides around traffic flows in the future, but I'm not sure how important that is right this second. Hearing you that will get you the traffic study. And I'm happy to talk about the MOU, but just wanted to get a sense of if there was anything else that you needed from Rob or John relative to the traffic study.
No, I think just getting a copy of it, Kristen, would be great. And then I can share it. And then maybe we can collectively come back after everyone's had a chance to look at it. I think also in terms of the other representatives you have from the school, I want to say thank you for them being here. And I look forward to working with them. I think if we can make sure to get their contact information and know who the right person is to connect with when there are issues. I know that, several of the neighbors who are on the call tonight are very good about notifying you all when there's an issue. So we want to make sure that those questions are getting directed to the right person. And then please note that we are here always to talk with you all. If you have questions or concerns you want to raise with us, we want to make sure that those lines of communication are open.
Absolutely. I don't know if this entire group was in the email chain. I'll make sure, Emily, that you have both Kat Park's contact and Catherine Rodriguez. Catherine is on site every day, unless that she has something personal going on, we all do sometimes, but as a general rule, Catherine's on site every day, Catherine Rodriguez, and then Kat Park, as you heard, is on site 2 or 3 days a week to just be able to oversee and see what's happening. So both of their contact information was in the email. I'll make sure that you have it, Emily, so you can circulate it as needed, and they should be your primary points of contact. We do have 2 principals. We really create an environment where principals can be focused mostly on the student and the teacher experience and a little bit less focused on these issues. But obviously the recess schedule is one of those pieces that they manage directly. So Catherine put in the chat that we do have that schedule, and we will make sure that we share that with you as well.
Great. Thank you.
And then we'll also make sure that we provide you with a point of contact for the construction. As John mentioned, we are really excited about the way that our the contractor who's in charge of construction, the way they manage community affairs. They have a very deep and presence in the community and a direct point of contact. I'm not sure that, because we haven't quite started yet, we don't necessarily have that yet to share, but we will share that with you. And they are, once we get going on in earnest on the part of the construction that will affect the neighborhood, that contact will be available for you on a regular basis in case anything does happen. But they're also really good about the preventative work to make sure that they are very clear on what shouldn't be happening.
Kristen, I appreciate that. Can you share who the construction company is?
Gilbane.
I'm sorry, who?
Gilbane Company.
Can you spell that?
Gilbane.
Thanks.
The only thing I was going to add to that is we aren't going away when construction happens. So I will be very present on the site. And so my number is always public on a construction project. Anybody can call me if they have any problems. I'm in regular contact with the construction company. So if anybody walks over and knocks on the door of their trailer, they'll tell me about it and we'll make sure we resolve issues.
Great. Thank you, John. Okay. Okay, if you all need, if some of you need to go, I appreciate it. If the rest of us who can stay on, just briefly talk about where we are with the MOU, that'd be great.
Okay, so our families have access to the MOU. We have linked it in all of the documents that we have sent out over the summer and the ramp up to the school year. I described earlier tonight the stations that we will have at back to school night, and those will have the MOU as well as a letter from me to parents saying what our expectations are for our parents as good neighbors and as good community members in relationship to neighbors relative to the expectations in the MOU. That's in terms of current operations. And then over the course of this year, the section 3 has the number of ideas that we had relative to expanding and deepening our ability to really live into making sure that as we grow, we are good neighbors and are doing our best to manage the traffic and parking. And those are things. So for example, the how can we bring buses back? What's the best way to bring buses back in a way that really mitigates for traffic and parking impact? A number of things that we are studying this fall in order to be able to put in place. But the immediate sort of MOU has been circulated in what I would call a more passive way, and we're ramping up between now and back to school night, which is in 10 days. To
So
make
Kristen,
sure
I just want a clarification. So by saying they have access to it, meaning it's available on the website, but you've also promoted the fact that it's on the website? Okay.
Yes, we have emailed out a summary with links to it. We haven't sent the whole document, and that's what will be circulating at back to school night. I will personally be handing it out. I will be talking to families, and then it is we are meeting with our community, our parent association. Tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow, and is on the agenda for our meeting with the parent association as part of asking for their help in socializing all of the details in this
Can I
document.
ask what time that meeting is tomorrow? The parent association meeting?
It is not it's a meeting with the leaders of the parent association, and then their public meeting is in a couple of weeks. This is prep for it. I don't have it in my brain. Give me 1 second.
I'm just wondering whether it might be helpful for someone from the community, and I'd be happy to be that person, to be at one of those meetings, either the one you're talking about tomorrow night or the one for the whole, just to give some background on it, because I don't want them to think, I'd like that if they have questions about where this came from or why, I'd like someone to be there to respond.
I think it would be great for one of the this is a small group of people. It's at 2:15 and we're really planning the next more open meeting. I think it would be great for the open meeting. And I can say tomorrow that we will work to make sure that a member of the community is present so that our parents can hear from members of the community.
Okay, let me know when that is, and I'll work on that.
Good. I think I mentioned this earlier, but they really slow down a lot in the summertime and are just ramping back up. But the goal is to leverage our parent leaders as some of our strongest allies in communicating the messages about how important it is that all of our parents be safe as they're driving and moving through the neighborhood.
Sorry, trying to navigate stuff here too. Okay.
What I see Steve's, what I meant by more passive is that we sent summaries with links out. So if you didn't link out, you didn't see the whole thing, if you didn't take the time. But what they're going to get at back to school night is the full agreement plus a letter from me that says, this is really important. Please pay attention. You've gotten it multiple times, and now you've got it in hand, on paper. All the wording.
So Kristen, one thing that might be helpful is if you could go through the list and say, completed fall 2023 to be implemented January 2024, blah, blah, blah. You know, I think it would be helpful if you could take the document and do that. Just to give us an update. And you had mentioned earlier about the car sticker. So could you talk a little bit more about where you are with that?
That's something that we intend to implement around back to school night as well. And I'm happy to go through. I was realizing that myself, and I appreciate the suggestion, Emily, that there are things, there's a list of a lot of different things, some of which is now and some of which is later, and some of which is phasing in over time. And so I'm happy to put it into a timeline so that you can see what we're thinking about, and you can give us feedback on this needs to be accelerated or this timeline looks fine.
Yeah, that would be great if you can put timelines on that. That would be helpful. Okay. Yeah, if you want to do that before you and then send it to me, that would be great with that.
I can do that.
Okay. Other questions from people?
Me?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve. Oh, you're not you're not raising your hand. You're like applauding, so I didn't know that.
Well, I'm doing the wrong one then.
Sorry.
All right, so the last time the MOU committee met, it was left up to Mundo Verde to like do something more, like get the traffic study and get the parents to agree to it. So it was left up in the air. What I would like to know is, may I now assume, like it seems to be so, that the MOU is finished, it is agreed to, it is a document that we can talk about, refer to, expect, and set expectations with, that it's now our working platform, our working understanding between us about what's going to happen, that it's no longer a draft or waiting for somebody else to change or fix anything, that it's our agreement. Is that true?
Steve, yes, it's been our agreement since we last met about it.
No.
Yes, we voted on it, and it was done deal, and we brought it to it's been brought to the ANC, and the ANC approved it. Once the ANC approved it, it was a done deal.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, that was several months ago. So, it's a done deal. So it is our working document.
So you should probably share the last version, whatever.
I did. I sent it by email right after that happened.
To me?
So it went out to the email list.
Does anybody else remember that?
I can go back and look when that happened, but it went.
Ann, Ted, Christine, did you all get that?
I don't recall whether I ever did, but
It was such a long time ago.
Can we do it again then? Can we just do it again to everybody?
they say some of the chaos here is it was a traffic committee. They got the work on that memorandum of understanding was seen as a first step. I was saying all the way along, we can do this perfectly, but we're never going to understand from it what's going to happen to this neighborhood and the streets with 200 more cars coming in. And suddenly now it's been forgotten that it was a traffic committee.
Well, it's Ted, I don't think it ever had an official name like a traffic. It was just, what it was called was it was a group.
Different.
It was considered a group of members between residents, parents, and the school.
That was
but it wasn't just traffic. It was everything related to things that were at the school. It's semantics, right? Whether we called it a traffic committee or but in the end, what the group did is created the MOU about the traffic issues.
Right. That's when we brought the parents in and brought the school in. Before that, the traffic study group working on it. And
well, the school was always involved in it. Kristen was always involved in the meetings, and then there were parents from the school who were involved in the meetings too.
We're not connecting. I don't know why, but okay.
So, okay. So, Steve, I'll go back and look through my emails because I know I sent it out right after it was done. But that is a done deal, and I'm happy to share it with people again. But that is absolutely a done deal.
Yeah, I'm not sure everybody got it or whether we're working with the same version. That was the final one, and that's what I want to confirm.
Well, the final one is on the website.
What website?
The ANC 5A website. All approved documents are always on the ANC 5A website.
I have never seen it there. I haven't looked there. I don't go there. that's not enough. We need to send it to the committee that created it.
It was sent to the committee that
No,
created.
nobody
it
seems
was-
to remember it,
Okay, all
Emily.
right, Steve, I will pull up the email. I shared it with everybody. I told everybody that it was approved by the ANC. And then Kristen had it. So, I will look for it.
All right, fine, that's fine.
I have to say, I was astonished that the ANC passed the certification for the school and a committee based on that document. They didn't have no better idea how of the impact of these 200 cars were going to be on these streets when they went. That is passed, but I don't think we can do that again. Though we have to get a committee together, working on the impact, working with this traffic person, and but somehow we got off base. But I think we're disagreeing, Emily. But that's okay. That's what makes life.
Okay. Yes, it was sent out on February 23rd, Steve.
I'll make a note and look for it, but if nobody else seems to have it, maybe you could just resend the message.
Yep, I can. It was sent on February 23rd.
And is that the version that Kirsten is working from?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, and yes, the meeting that happened right around that same time, it says that ANC 5A unanimously supported the efforts with it. And it was attached to the email. Okay. All right. Anything else we need to talk about tonight?
Is there a next meeting? Do we need to plan another meeting? What's the plan for next?
What I heard was the need for three things. Making sure that we have some neighborhood presence with our parent community. So whether that's the coffee with the principals or the parent association meeting or the back to school night as one bucket. I heard a second bucket, which was a reminder and a very sort of timely reminder of the importance of us meeting with neighbors individually to discuss the impact of the construction on specific neighbors. And the list that I have includes, give me 1 second because I wrote it down. It includes Divine Word, Anne Doherty, Father Vincent Yeager, Ted Keating, Mayor Center, Vicky and Stewart Center. As
It
sort of
should also include Clara, who's on here, but she has not spoken up. I don't know if she's still on the call. Clara Callahan. But if you reach out to me, I can get you her contact information.
I'm here. Kristen, we've spoken before. I'm the executive director at the Stewart Center.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking Clara and Vicky. I named Vicky and I should have named her.
That's okay.
As well. I appreciate you speaking up, but yes, I absolutely have you in mind as one meeting, Vicky and Clara. So those are the things that,
hi, and
community parent meetings with immediate neighbors. And then
immediate neighbors, I think you also need to include the Jesuit Center and Ann and Lois. She said it. She said me. Oh, okay. I did not hear.
I didn't say Lois, but I did say Anne, so I apologize for not including both.
And I'm not sure if you want. I'm not sure if you want to meet with the Washington Jesuit Academy or not, Kristen. You are a grown up. You can make that call.
Well, I think the goal. I mean, the goal is to let's first meet with the neighbors that are abutting the development, and the Washington Jesuit School does not abut the new development.
Correct. That what I was thinking was abutting the development. For sure, we need to have ongoing meetings with the Jesuit Center.
Yeah, and Kristen, and I'm gonna set up a meeting. That's the other thing is I'm gonna re-engage that community, that group that we did before with Providence or with EYA. It'll be with EYA this time since it's public knowledge that it's EYA. So it'll be EYA, Concordia group, and you and your group. So
that was the third thing I was thinking, which was construction and sort of impact on not just construction, but impact of the development projects on the neighborhood is the third meeting. And the fourth, and none of these are in, this is not a particular order or sequencing, but making sure that we come back to you with renderings and a little bit more specificity about what our project is going to look like and be. Those are the four things that I had on my list. Emily, I'll count on you on the construction piece. It's on us to do the meetings with neighbors relative to the immediate impact of our work. I'll count on you, Emily, for you and I to find the meeting time for both single member district as well as ANC 5A relative to the overall project timeline. And then I'll also follow up with you about our parent opportunity in front of our parents.
That's fine. Okay. All right. Well, great. Any other questions from anybody? No. All right. Ted, you're welcome to give me a call tomorrow if you want to talk more about this. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great night. And we will be in touch soon.
Thank you all. Appreciate you as neighbors and members of our community. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.